We sing about grace. We name our children and our churches after it. We call it amazing, and we are convinced, all of us, that we love it. But I want to suggest something that will sound wrong at first and become harder to deny the longer you sit with it. The human heart does not actually love grace. The human heart is offended by grace. We love the idea of it, the word, the song. But the real thing, grace as the Bible actually defines it, cuts against something so deep in us that our first instinct, every time we truly encounter it, is to resist it. And here is the strange part, the part that makes this worth your time. The exact thing about grace that offends us is the exact thing that saves us. You cannot remove the offense without removing the rescue. They are the same edge of the same blade. So let's do something we almost never do. Instead of celebrating grace, let's dissect it. Let's open it up and find out why something so good provokes something so ugly in us. And then let's find out why that offense, properly understood, is the best news a guilty person could ever hear. This is the anatomy of grace. Start with what grace actually is, because the offense is built into the definition. Grace is unearned favor. It is getting what you did not work for and could never deserve. And the Bible is relentless on this point. It will not let you smuggle a single ounce of your own effort into it. Paul says it bluntly. If it is by grace, it is no longer on the basis of works. Otherwise, grace would no longer be grace. Grace and earning cannot coexist. The moment you contribute 1 cent toward the price, it stops being a gift and becomes a wage. And that is the first collision, because the human heart is, at its core, an earning machine. We are wired to pay our way, to settle our debts, to owe no one. We find deep, almost spiritual satisfaction in the words, "I earned this." So when grace arrives and says your best efforts, your discipline, your decades of trying contribute nothing to your salvation, that it is all gift, start to finish, something in us recoils. Not because grace is bad news, but because it dethrones the thing we trust most, ourselves. We would so much rather pay. Paying keeps us in control. Paying lets us keep the credit. Grace takes both, and the proud heart would almost rather be lost on its own terms than saved on someone else's. You can watch that exact collision in one of the shortest stories Jesus ever told. 2 men go up to the temple to pray in Luke 18. One is a Pharisee, moral, disciplined, religiously impeccable, and he stands and prays, "God, I thank you that I am not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give 1/10 of all I get." Notice he is not really asking God for anything. He is presenting his resume. He has come to be paid, not pardoned. And then there is the tax collector, a traitor, a thief, a man with nothing to show, who will not even lift his eyes, who beats his chest and says 7 words, "God, be merciful to me, a sinner." And Jesus delivers the verdict that would have stunned everyone listening. It was the tax collector, not the Pharisee, who went down to his house justified. The empty-handed man went home right with God. The accomplished man went home with nothing but his accomplishments. And that is the first thing the anatomy reveals. Grace can only be received by the empty-handed, and we hate coming empty-handed. To take grace, you first have to admit you need it. And admitting need is the one humiliation the proud heart will do almost anything to avoid. And there is a second layer to that first offense, and it shows up in one of the strangest healing stories in the Old Testament. Naaman was a great commander, a powerful man, and he had leprosy. He travels to the prophet Elisha expecting a spectacle, expecting to be asked to do something worthy of his stature. Instead, Elisha does not even come out to meet him. He just sends a message: "Go wash in the Jordan 7 times, and you will be clean." And Naaman is furious. Listen to why. "I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call upon the name of the Lord his God and wave his hand over the place and cure the leprosy." He almost storms home with his disease still on him. And the reason is pure grace offense. The cure was too simple. It required no achievement, no greatness, no payment worthy of a man like him. It insulted his pride precisely because it asked him to do nothing but humble himself and wash. His servants finally reason with him. "If the prophet had asked you to do something great, would you not have done it? How much more when he simply says, 'Wash and be clean'?" And there it is. Grace offends us not only because we cannot earn it, but because it refuses to let us achieve anything at all. It asks us only to receive, and receiving feels, to the proud, like losing. Naaman nearly walked away from his own healing because it was free. But the offense gets sharper. Because it is one thing for grace to be given to me when I don't deserve it. It is something else entirely when grace is lavished on people I am certain deserve it less than I do. And this is where grace stops feeling merely humbling and starts feeling like an outright injustice. Jesus told a parable about exactly this, and it is one of the most uncomfortable he ever told. A landowner hires workers for his vineyard. Some he hires at dawn to work the full 12-hour day. Others he hires at 9, at noon, at 3, and some he hires at 5 in the afternoon with 1 hour left. And when evening comes, he pays them, starting with the latecomers, and he gives the 1-hour workers a full day's wage. So the men who worked all day in the heat are now expecting more. And they get exactly the same, and they grumble. Listen to their complaint, because it is the most honest line in the story. "These last worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us." There it is. That is the offense of grace in 5 words. You have made them equal to us. They were not actually cheated. They received exactly what they agreed to. What enraged them was that someone undeserving got the same as someone deserving. Grace, to the person who has been earning all day, feels like being robbed, and the landowner's answer exposes the whole thing. "Are you envious because I am generous?" The all-day workers could not enjoy the master's generosity because they were too busy measuring it against their merit. And if that sounds familiar, it is because Jesus told the same offense in a more famous story, the one with 2 sons. The younger one wastes the inheritance, hits bottom, comes home, and the father runs to him and throws a feast. And where is the older brother? Outside, refusing to go in, furious. "These many years I have served you, and I never disobeyed your command, yet you never gave me even a young goat. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your living, you killed the fattened calf for him." The older brother is not the villain we expect. He did everything right. And that is precisely why grace offends him. He has been keeping a ledger his whole life. Years of service, perfect obedience. And grace just tore the ledger up and said it was never the point. The party is not for the deserving. It is for the returning. And the deserving cannot stand it. Most of us read that story and quietly sympathize with the older brother, and we should pay attention to that sympathy because it is the surest evidence that the offense of grace is alive and well in our own chest, and it goes one level deeper still to the offense underneath all the others. Grace levels everyone. If salvation is by grace and not by merit, then the moral person has no advantage over the immoral one. They come in through the exact same door, on the exact same terms, empty-handed. And the human heart cannot stand that, because the human heart loves hierarchy. It loves being further along, being better than, being able to look at someone and think, at least I'm not like that. Grace abolishes the ranking. It says the respectable churchgoer and the worst sinner you can imagine are saved the same way, by the same unearned gift, and that one is not 1 inch ahead of the other in the line. The clearest picture of this in all of Scripture is a man dying next to Jesus, a criminal, a man being justly executed who has, by his own admission, no good works, no time left to earn any, no baptism, no restitution, nothing, just one sentence gasped out in his final hour. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus says, today you will be with me in paradise. Today, no probation, no track record. A lifelong criminal walks straight into paradise on the strength of nothing but a dying plea. And if that does not unsettle something in you, you have not understood what just happened. That is the scandal of grace at full volume. The thief got in on exactly the same terms as the apostle. And the part of us that finds that unfair is the part of us that has never truly understood that we are the thief. If something in you is tightened up over the last few minutes, if part of you has been quietly objecting, but surely it can't be that simple, surely it has to cost something, then stay with that feeling, because it is the most important thing happening in you right now. Because the second half of this is where the offense turns into the best news you have ever heard. It runs through the entire Bible. The offense of grace is not a New Testament problem. It is as old as the human heart. Look at Jonah. We remember the fish and forget the ending, which is the actual point of the book. God spares the wicked city of Nineveh, and Jonah is not relieved. He is enraged. He prays one of the angriest prayers in Scripture. O Lord, is this not what I said? That is why I fled. For I knew that you are a gracious God and merciful, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. Read that again. Jonah ran from God not because he doubted God's grace, but because he counted on it, and he hated it. He would rather die than watch his enemies receive the mercy he wanted for himself alone. The book of Jonah ends with God asking him, essentially, am I not allowed to be gracious to people you despise? And Jonah never answers. The question is left hanging for the reader, for you. And it is the same offense that swirled around Jesus his entire ministry. The single complaint the religious leaders made about him over and over was this: this man receives sinners and eats with them. That was the scandal. Not his miracles, not his claims, his table. He kept giving grace to the wrong people, welcoming the unclean, the traitors, the immoral, treating them as family. The offense of grace is, in a real sense, what got him killed. And here's the proof that the early church preached grace correctly. The most common objection to Paul's gospel was, well then, shall we just keep on sinning so that grace can increase? Think about what that objection reveals. No one ever accuses a religion of rules of being too soft on sin. The only gospel that ever provokes the question, isn't this too free, is a gospel of real grace. A watered-down, you have to earn it message never gets that objection. The fact that grace sounds almost dangerous, almost too generous, that is how you know it is the real thing. If your gospel has never once sounded scandalous, it may not be grace at all. So now we reach the turn, the place where the whole dissection pays off. Why does grace offend us? And the answer is the most freeing sentence in this entire study. Grace offends us for the very same reason it saves us, because it is not based on us at all. Every single thing about grace that scandalizes the proud heart, is the exact thing that gives the desperate heart hope. It offends you that you cannot earn it. But if you could earn it, you could also lose it, and on your worst day, you would. It offends you that it goes to the undeserving. But you are the undeserving, and that is the only reason there is a door for you. It offends you that it makes the criminal equal to the saint. But one day, in your own dying hour, you will need to be the criminal who only has a whispered prayer left, and you will be grateful beyond words that the door is that low. The offense is the gospel. Take away the scandal, and you take away the salvation. A grace you could deserve would be a grace too weak to save anyone who couldn't. But we have to be honest about one more thing, because there is a way to cheapen this. Grace is free to you. It is not free in itself. That is what we miss when we accuse grace of being too easy. Grace costs the receiver nothing precisely because it costs the giver everything. The thief walked into paradise for free, but the man dying next to him was paying for it with his life at that very moment. Grace is not God, shrugging at sin, waving it through, pretending it didn't matter. If God simply overlooked sin, that wouldn't be grace. It would be injustice of a different kind. No. At the cross, the debt was not ignored. It was absorbed. Justice was not set aside so that mercy could win. Justice was fully satisfied so that mercy could be just. Paul says God did it so that he might be just and the justifier, both at once. Grace is the most expensive thing in the universe, given away for nothing because the price was paid in full by someone else. And that is why it can be both completely free and completely righteous. It does not cheapen sin. It reveals exactly how much sin costs, and then pays it. And the man who understood this best was the man who least deserved to. The Apostle Paul was not a lifelong saint who discovered grace as a nice idea. He was a man who had hunted Christians, approved of their executions, dragged them from their homes. And Jesus stopped him on a road and saved him in the middle of the crime. Paul spent the rest of his life calling himself the chief of sinners, not out of false modesty, but because his entire theology of grace was forged in the furnace of being the very last person who deserved it. The persecutor became the preacher of the very thing he had tried to destroy. That is what grace does. And no one who has truly received it ever again resents it being given to someone else, because they remember every day that they were the someone else. And that is the key to the whole thing. The reason some people are wrecked with gratitude by grace, while others are quietly offended by it. Jesus made it explicit at a dinner in the house of a Pharisee named Simon. A woman known in the town as a sinner comes in uninvited, weeping, and washes Jesus' feet with her tears and pours out expensive perfume on them. And Simon is disgusted, offended that Jesus would even let such a woman touch him. So Jesus tells him a tiny parable. 2 men owed a moneylender, one a huge sum, one a small one, and he forgave them both. Which will love him more? Simon answers grudgingly, the one who was forgiven more. And Jesus turns it on him like a blade. He who is forgiven little loves little. There is the whole anatomy in one sentence. The reason grace offends the religious man and overwhelms the broken woman is not that one received more grace than the other. It is that one knew how much they needed it, and the other did not. Simon felt like a small debtor, so grace felt small, even offensive. The woman knew she was a great debtor, so grace felt like everything. Your offense at grace is a thermometer. It measures exactly how small you think your own debt is. So bring it home. To the offense you may have felt rising in your own chest as we walked through this. The next time you feel that flash of resentment, that's not fair. They don't deserve it. After everything they've done, how could God just forgive them? I want you to recognize what you are feeling. That is not righteousness. That is the older brother standing in the field, refusing to come to the party. That is the all-day laborer, grumbling at the master's generosity. That is Simon, silently judging the woman at his own table. That is Jonah on the hill, angry that mercy reached the wrong people. And it is the surest sign that somewhere along the way, you forgot how large your own debt was, that you started thinking of yourself as a small debtor. Because here is the truth the whole Bible has been building toward. The only people who cannot receive grace are the ones who think they do not need much of it. The Pharisee went home empty because his hands were too full of his own goodness to hold a gift. The tax collector went home justified because his hands were empty enough to receive. So stop counting your years in the field. Stop measuring your wage against theirs. Stop standing outside the party, arms crossed, certain you have earned a better seat. The door is low. It has to be, or none of us could get through it. And it is open, and the feast is already going, and your Father has come out into the dark to plead with you to come in too. Grace will always offend the part of you that is still trying to earn. Let it offend that part, and then let it save you. If you haven't already, subscribe for more studies like this and share this with someone that needs it. And the next time grace offends you, don't silence the feeling. Follow it home. May the grace that scandalizes the proud be the very thing that saves you today, completely and for free. God bless you.